I've been using all the Google Pixel 10 series for more than a week to help you figure out which Pixel variant you should get. And while looking at the spec sheet, it might give you a straight answer, but after using each of these phones, there's something that Google is not telling us. Now let's first start with the average screen on time or the battery life when using these phones daily. Now as a recap, the Google Pixel 10 comes with a 4970 mAh of battery, and while using it daily, this phone seems to have one quirk where it drains the first 6% very quickly with only 26 minutes of screen on time. But the good news is that throughout the day, it always felt like the phone suddenly gets an energy drink to stay less drained. Now all in all, I got about 9 hours of screen on time, which was very good at around 20% battery. But how about the Google Pixel 10 Pro then? Well, this phone did not have the similar percentage of battery drain, where it stayed very consistent with its battery use. I got an average of 7 hours of screen on time, and this is probably due to the smaller battery size than the Pixel 10 at 4870 milliamps. But that is to be expected since there's a bigger vapor chamber cooling on this particular Pixel 10 Pro compared to the base Pixel 10. And this is also because it has the same 6.3 inches display size. Then as for the Pixel 10 Pro XL, this comes with a bigger 5200 mAh of battery, and here's where it had the similar battery drain as the younger Pixel 10, but it was great from 80% battery onwards, where I got a total about 8.5 hours of screen on time when I was at 16% battery with dark mode turned on. So with this, the winner is obviously the Google Pixel 10, but of course, it comes with compromises when it comes to the camera specs compared to the Pro variant. But is it really any sort of a compromise? Well, let's talk about that next. So both the Pixel 10 Pro and the Pixel 10 Pro XL has the same cameras, which is a 50 megapixel main, 48 megapixel periscope telephoto lens, and a 48 megapixel ultra wide for the rear. But this Pixel 10 also has the 3 cameras, but the specs are compromised to a 48 megapixel main, a 10.8 megapixel telephoto, and a 13 megapixel ultra wide. Now the selfie cameras are also lower on the baseline Pixel 10, which is a 10.5 megapixel compared to 42 megapixel on the Pro. So is there a difference comparing side by side with this Pro? Spoiler alert, the pictures looked the same. Yep, from the ultra-wide, main lenses, 2 times, 5 times, and even the 10 times zoom side by side. Now the base model Pixel can go up to a max 20 times compared to the Pro's 100 times. And yes, the software fix using AI on the Pro models, or what Google calls the ProRes zoom, was really marvelous, as Google gives you an option to either use the non-AI corrected one and the AI corrected one. Now based on my test, this ProRes zoom seems to activate from 30 times zoom onwards, and what's nice is that the preview additional box that you get in the camera app can be enlarged to easily frame your shots accordingly. So unless you really need such high zoom values, you won't really tell the difference between this focal lengths if you're changing between only the standard focal lengths that comes in the camera app. Now as for the rear portrait mode, what's interesting is that the 1 times mode is slightly wider on the Pixel 10, but you're looking at the same colors and edge detection for the 1 time zoom. On the 2 times portrait mode, the focal length is the same, but yes, still looking very similar. But the wider selfie option looks a bit wider on the Pro. Other than that, same results. The 1 times mode looked the same, where probably the only difference is the amount of background blur that the Pro had, and that's about it. Then even the night photos or Google's night side photos for the ultra-wide cameras were the same, main lenses, same. 2 times, same. So it was for the 5 times zoom. But what's weird is that at 10 times and 20 times, the base Pixel 10 looks a tiny bit sharper, but only when you really pixel peep, pun intended. But yeah, very interesting indeed. Image processing, which is better perhaps. The portrait mode at night for the 1 times mode was similar on both, but the 2 times mode on the Pixel 10 Pro's image processing on getting the exact color was a bit better on the Pro, but yeah, just a tiny bit. Then switching over to the front cameras for the selfie photos at night. Once again, besides being wider on the Pro, the color and the quality are similar on the wider selfie, but there was a dip in quality on the Pixel 10's 1 times mode night selfie. So with all of this, you might be asking, Adam, with barely any quality differences between the Pro and the non-Pro, which areas is the Pro better? Well, you probably guessed it right, because yes, it's in the video. As the Pixel 10 Pro series records up to 8K 30fps compared to 4K on the non-Pro. But then again, most people don't really need 8K video, right? Unless you are secretly directing and shooting the next Avengers on your Pixel. Are you? Now, when it comes to comparing the video quality on the 4K resolution on the ultra-wide lenses, the quality was very close to each other. But, and this is a huge but, not that but lah, you will see a drop in quality from the main 4K lenses on the Pixel 10 with more noise on the footage, and is more apparent and noisier on the 2x and the 5x zoom video quality as well, where the quality was shockingly bad on the base Pixel 10. Now, I honestly hope that this is a software thing where it could be updated and get fixed, because I wouldn't really recommend a video quality from the 2x onwards on the base Pixel 10. Then the front cameras record up to 4K, video stabilization was good on both. But if you're against the light, you'll get a more pasty skin tone on both phones, but the Pixel 10, if you compare to the Pro, did look a lot worse. Then, of course, the video quality at night had similar results from the 2x zoom onwards, with the Pro doing better, but both had very heavy lens flare as seen in this footage. And finally, if you're taking selfie videos at night, both were just decent as seen in these footages side by side. Phew, that was tiring. Quite a workout for the eyes, right? Now, if you're finding this video helpful so far, do give this video a nice big thumbs up to tell YouTube or the YouTube algorithm that this video was good, and a subscription will be extra awesome too. So thank you, and thank you very much in advance. Now, as for the phone software, it is shipped with Material 3 Expressive with Android 16 with 7 years of OS and security updates. So yes, they're finally caught up with Samsung, but I still wish there are more customization when it comes to the home screen, like removing the icon names, which other brands like Vivo, Oppo and Xiaomi allows it very easily without downloading an external launcher. But Google has come up with some very exciting AI features, totally leaving out every other smartphone brand with their very unique innovations. But the question is, does it do well, and which actually works? Well, let's start with what works. The live translations on the phone calls, that was quite mind-blowing, because not only you can hear the other person speaking in your preferred language, but it even uses the same voice as well, instead of having some sort of an AI voice, which is what Samsung does in their AI translation with Galaxy AI. However, the caveat is that the other person needs to speak on a usual pace, you know, like a normal conversation, like how are you, what are your plans today, instead of how are you and what are your plans today. Because if the other person speaks slowly like that, the translation and the person's voice will clash. So keep that in mind. And another feature that was really nice is the camera coach. And while a lot of other reviewers or tech YouTubers felt that it was not a useful feature, I honestly felt it was very beneficial for people who are probably not good at taking photos or just want to go back to the basics, right? So how this works is that at the camera app, just hit the camera icon at the top right of the camera app and then point at the subject that you want to take photos of. Next, the camera app will give you some options at the bottom of the screen, but keep in mind you need a proper internet connection for this. And after choosing which type of shot you want to take, the camera will give you a step-by-step guide on how to take the photo. Brilliant. Good job, Google. But you know what? There are two AI features which is not working yet. Firstly is the Magic Q, as it's not been rolled out to every Pixel device yet, so I couldn't test it when I was using all of these phones daily. But the question is that, is this Magic Q, which in case you do not know, is where it helps you to give you a better context on your conversation. Like for example, if someone asks you what are your flight details, it will automatically pop up in your Messages app. So my question is that, will it work only on the Messages app, or will it work with other apps like WhatsApp or even Telegram? Well, only time will tell, right? Then the other one, which is not here, especially here in Malaysia, which is the Photos Coach, a feature that allows you to edit your photos via voice, for you to tell the photo to remove the object, brighten the photo and more. Yes, just using your voice instead of going into and editing the photo. And now I even tried to change the region to US and still it could not work, so we will have to wait for this Pixel Drop to be announced when it's available here in Malaysia. But there are other software features which I still really love. While it's not particularly new, but the screenshot app, I absolutely still love this very much, because I'm what you call a screenshot slut. Then the Journal app was also really great, perfect if you want to switch from an iPhone to a Pixel, since the iPhone has a similar type of app and is also very safe and secure. And while I initially did not like the suggested apps, as my buddy Vernon predicted, in time the algorithm suggested it better. But if you're like me, who previously did not like it, who prefer to have the exact app instead of an app suggestion, you can turn this off by pressing and holding your home screen, heading to the home screen settings and then suggestions, and toggle this to turn off. So yes, at this point in time, it seems that this Google Pixel phones are the cleverest phone in the room, and since some of the features have not been rolled out yet, do subscribe to the channel as I'll be doing a long-term review of one of these phones, so stay tuned for that. But if you want a written recap of everything mentioned in this particular video, we do have one at our website at www.adamlobo.tv. Links to the website will be down below, where we also have some daily tech news over there too. But before going into how well this new Google Tensor G5 performs, let's quickly talk about another two things: the phone's design, as you can see, and the new Pixel Snap. Now, design-wise, there's nothing new, but a minor good point is the fact that the SIM card tray is wider compared to the Pixel 9 series, so it wasn't too tight. Now, in case you didn't know, there is a difference between the finishes of the non-Pro and the Pro variant. Now, the Google Pixel 10 comes with a matte finish only on the sides, but the rear glass is glossy, so you can expect some fingerprints. So yeah, your CSI records are literally at the back of the glass. And it also can be a little slippery. Then the Pro variants, the back panel glass is a matte finish, but the sides are very glossy. Now, I would prefer for the sides to be matte as well, but I guess it is what it is. Now, it's nice that Google has some very nice cases for the phone, but honestly, using it naked, the phone I mean, feels great. Now, when I did the unboxing of all of these three phones, I fell in love with this particular obsidian color, since it was really lovely and it looked totally different from the usual porcelain color that I would go for. But after using this phone for a week plus, I regretted my decision. So instead of buying a new phone again with a porcelain color, I decided to get dbrand's new white Damascus triple white skin to change the overall look of the phone. And there's also a hollow white Damascus colorway version. Both are scratch protected, which is very important because the Google Pixel 10 Pro has a small scratch at the back, totally unintentional, and I don't know how it went there, I swear. Probably because of the matte finish, and since dbrand also has the Prism 2.0 screen protector available for the Google Pixel 10 series, so I decided to grab that as well. As what dbrand says, it is quite idiot proof and super easy to apply as well, where you get two, just in case you screw up the first one. So check the links down below if you guys want to get it, where there's also a discount code waiting for you there as well. Next, let's talk about the new Pixel Snap, you know, the MagSafe for Pixel, because yes, finally an Android phone that had the guts to put full magnets inside of its phone. Now, the good part is that these magnets are really nice and reliable, very strong compared to the likes of the Oppo Find X8 Pro, but if I really had to nitpick, I still feel that the magnets are probably 10% or probably 5% less strong compared to iPhone's MagSafe. There was a sense of security when you put an iPhone's MagSafe on a charger compared to the Pixel 10 series, so if you compare side by side, the iPhone snaps like a clingy X and the Pixel is more like a chill X who still replies okay. Now, this is probably because it's a first generation Pixel Snap, but yeah, it's a mere 5 to 10% less feeling compared to the iPhones, and this could honestly be only felt if you compare this with an iPhone side by side. Next, let's talk about the Google Tensor G5 chipset. Yes, using the phone daily was really great, with no lag or stutter when I was using the phone every single day. Even the AI capabilities mentioned earlier on the chip, when I tested, it was really quick and responsive. So the NPU on this chip is really great, where I even managed the heat very well on this phone too. Then to test the chipset further, I tested Genshin Impact on all of these three phones. Now on the Pixel 10, it was on the high settings, 60 FPS with motion blur turned on, where the game ran smoothly without any lag or stutter, but it became quite hot at about 15 minutes of gameplay. Battery drain was noticeable but not super bad, so overall the new and improved chip did run the game very well at high settings now compared to last year. Then as for the Pixel 10 Pro, it ran at the same settings with similar heat after 15 minutes of gameplay, which is not too hot, but the battery drain was surprisingly worse than the Pixel 10, which was weird because this is supposed to have a vapor chamber cooling. Other than that, it ran well like the Pixel 10. Then I tried even further to run to the highest graphics settings on the Pixel 10 Pro XL, but it did become very hot at about 5 minutes, so I dialed it back to the same high settings as the other two phones. Battery drain on here was better than the Pixel 10 Pro, but the biggest yes was how comfortable that it felt in the hands when gaming for quite a while because of the nicely curved edges on the phone. So with all of this, which would I choose? Well, because of the bigger screen and the better video capabilities, I would go with the Pixel 10 Pro XL. But if I would recommend which one you should get, probably the baseline Google Pixel 10, but of course with a sacrifice of video quality just in case a software update could not fix the video noise shown earlier. But I would love to know which one would you prefer in the comment section below.